Hi, fifth graders. To start off with today, I want to do some review of what we did last week when we were multiplying with decimals. I'm going to use a piece of paper, but if you want to use your whiteboard and marker, that's fine also. So let's review without decimals first. So I'm going to start with 31 times 4. And I want us to solve with the area model to begin with. So I'm going to draw my rectangle. Remember, we want a nice large rectangle. My smaller number, so the 4, sorry, I'm possessed Woody in my room. The smaller number is going to go on the short side, and then I'm going to break up my 31. So my first digit there is a 3, and it's in the tens place. Then my second digit is a 1, and it is in the ones place. Now we can solve. 4 times 3 is 12, and the place value needs to stay the same, so it should be 12 tens. Then I have a 4 times 1 is 4, and it needs to stay in the ones. When we write this as decimals, so 12 tens, think of it like money. You have 12 $10 bills. How much money do you have? You'd have 120. What about 4 $1 bills? How much would you have then? $4. And this one's easy enough to do in my head because they're all just both whole numbers. So 120 plus 4, our answer would be 124. Let's write this up at the top. It's okay if you didn't follow along for this. Actually, it's really not neat, but I want you to write down this part. 31 times 4 is 124. Let's do a second solving of this, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to do 3.1 times 4. Once again, it's okay if you're not writing this part down, the area model. I know I'm going fast, but I want you following along and thinking. So 3.1 times 4, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make an area model to help me solve. So I'm putting my 4, the smaller number, or I guess the number with less digits, on the short side. My 3.1, I'm going to break up. So I have 3, and this time it's in the ones place. And my 1 is now in the tenths place. Now I can solve 4 times 3. It's still 12, the same number up above, but now it's 12 ones. Same here, 4 times 1 is still 4, but now it's tenths. So when we write our decimals, what does 12 ones look like? 12 $1 bills. It's just a normal 12. What about 4 tenths? 4 tenths, what does that look like as a decimal? Just like that, I have a 4, and it's one spot over from my decimal because I would put it in the tenth place. So now when I add, I have 12, and I have 4 tenths. So together I have 12 and 4 tenths. I want you to write that in our equation here. So far you should at least have written down the first equation and the second equation. Let's do one more. This time I'm going to have 0.31. Let's multiply by 4 again. Same problem, or same way of solving, I mean. I'm going to draw my area model, and because 4 only has one digit, it's going to go on the short side, and my 31/100ths I'll put on the longer side because I have to break it up into 2 spots since there are 2 digits. The first digit I hit is a 3, and it's in the tenths place. And the second digit is a 1, and it's in the hundredths. Solving 4 times 3/10, what would that be? 12/10. What about 4 times 100? 4/100. Now, what would these two look like as a decimal? 12/10. What would that be? It should look like this. That number is a 12, and the 2, it is ending in the tenths place. 12/10. 4/100. What would that look like? Well, I know my hundredths come after my tenths, so I have 0/10. 4/100. Let's add those numbers together. 1.2 plus decimal 0.4. So I have 4/100, 2/10, 1/1. Let's write this answer up into our equation. All right. At this point, I want you to make sure that you have the 3 equations written down. So we have 31 times 4 is 124. 3 1/10 times 4 is 12 4/10. And 31/100 times 4 is 1 24/100. Take a look at those equations. What do you see is the same about our answers? Well, I'm noticing on each of these answers here, I have the same digits. It is 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. But they're not the same answers. What's different about these 3 answers? What do you notice? I see something. Look at this one. My equation, I was multiplying 31/10 times 4, and my answer also has 8/10 in the answer. So I have one number after the decimal here, one number after the decimal here. Oh, and I see it down here too. Look, 31, and that would bring it to the hundredths. My answer, here's my decimal, I have 2 numbers after it. That brings this to the hundredths. Is that the same as up top? I have nothing here. Look at my answer. I also have nothing after the decimal here. We can use seeing these patterns to help us figure out where the decimal goes in our answer. If there is nothing after the decimal, our answer should have nothing after the decimal. If there's one number after our decimal, there should be one number after our decimal. If there are 2 numbers after the decimal, in our answer, there should be 2 numbers after the decimal. The place value stays. Let's use that to help us solve this next problem. All right, on your whiteboard, please write down the problem. 5.1 times 6. Look how I'm writing it. So I want you to do 2 things. First, you're going to stop and you're going to solve this problem using multiplication. So try to refresh your memory. How do we do this again? Then, once you have an answer here, I want you to think, where does the decimal go? Then you're going to check this. Let's check using our area model to see if we were correct about where our decimal goes. So on our area model, since 6 only has 1 digit, I'm going to put it here on the short side. multiplying by 5, and it's in the ones place, and 1 is in the tenths. All right. Once you've solved both ways and found your answers, come back and we can check our work. Good job.